We're looking at the possibility of huge megastructures being uncovered beneath the second pyramid.
I will review to you a new theory on the origins of the pyramids.
This is applicable to us today.
Hey everybody out there joining us from around the world, wherever you're watching from. Thanks for coming. This is so exciting. I can't wait to jump in. My name's Jason Liggett. I am the producer of Ancient Civilizations and several other shows at Gaia, and it is so awesome to be able to do this. And it's kind of like a reunion for us because I was just with everyone individually in London, and it's so fun to have all of you in one spot. So I can't wait to get going. Just so everybody knows, Andrew is a science and history writer with over 15 books highlighting the mysteries of the ancient world. Andrew Collins, thank you for joining us. Hugh Newman, author, alternative researcher, and for sure megalithomaniac. Love having you here. Armando May, investigative journalist and with a sharp focus on ancient Egypt. So thank you. And Filippo Bionde, he earned his PhD in telecommunications engineering and is an expert in synthetic aperture radar technology. So we're going to go into a deep dive here on this, and I'm so excited. So I know everybody wants to get started, but I just want to kind of tell you what's going to happen. So we'll definitely be discussing the scanning technology. We'll be discussing what in the world is going on the Giza Plateau, the most mysterious plateau on the planet. We're going to be just going into the history of what's there and what this kind of technology may mean for archaeology in the future. And we're going to, once we go through all that, we're going to get into a Q&A, a live Q&A. So make sure you hit that live or that Q&A button at the bottom. You can submit your questions, and we're going to start we'll be picking questions to ask everybody throughout the thing. And I'm going to try to get all four of them to give us some clues about what they're going to be bringing to the Ancient Civilizations Conference at the Gaia Sphere in August, which I'm so excited about. So fun to be with you guys virtually, but when we get everybody together in that live event, that live Gaia Sphere setting, it's so much fun going on the deep dive. So I can't wait to get into this. There's no way we can't start this without talking to Armando and Filippo about the most shocking thing that has come across in this room, March 15th, 2025, when you guys did the press conference that completely shocked us. What is going on under Khafre Pyramid? It's all yours, Armando.
Well, we are working very hard since 1 year and a half. When Filippo Biondi, Professor Corrado Malanga, and me, we decided to move together in the study of the mysteries of the Giza Plateau. As you know, I am in the field of archaeology since the middle of the 90s. And I follow my path starting from the Orion correlation theory by Robert Bauval, and also I followed Andrew Collins in his study on the Giza Plateau that are really very, very interesting. And in 2010, I discussed my theory of the dating of the Tep-Tepi at the Tired University of Dubai. Because I believe that if we want to understand the real purpose of the Giza Plateau, we must study the entire Giza Plateau, putting together all the pieces, all the monuments that, in my opinion, were built during the so-called Tep-Tepi. So I don't refer also only to the pyramids on the Sphinx, but also many other monuments that were built on the Giza Plateau, such as the temples beneath the Sphinx, for example, or the Tomb of the Bird, that is a very, very interesting monument, and so on. So, and I noted that all those monuments putting together all those monuments, all of them were connected with the stars and planets. According to the precessional cycle of equinox, and according to my studies, they align with the stars in 36,400 before Christ. That is really that is closely connected with the ancient myth that we can appreciate reading the ancient documents unearthed in Egypt, for example, the Book of Death, the Royal Canon, the Stone of Palermo, and so on. So when I got these results, the next step was to understand who built those monuments, and of course to understand to investigate this mystery. The only way, in my opinion, was to enter in the mind of the architect who conceived the entire project. And if we assume that those monuments were built by a preceding civilization that lived before us, before the Great Flood, for example, and they were really an advanced society, the only way to convey a message in the future was only through the number. So I decided to study the pyramids, for example, starting from basic model based on mathematics and arithmetic. And so applying some very basic mathematical formula, for example, the prime factorization or the prime counting function applied to the dimension, the sides of the pyramids, I discovered that the Khafre pyramid was connected to a code physics that is very important in quantum physics, that is the number 137. It was really an interesting code, maybe a message coming from the past. So it was very important to investigate the connection between the Khafre pyramid and this number. I moved forward in the study, and I decided to discuss with Filippo and Corrado Malanga about this very important topic. And we decide to move forward in our study, applying the connection between the experimental archaeology and satellite technology, just to invest, because I believe that technology is the only way to got the results explaining what happened in the ancient past.
Your love for the Giza Plateau is so apparent when we're together. So when you're talking about it, but it's the fine structure constant, right? 137.
Yeah.
Just this mysterious number that all the ancient mathematicians seem to be focused on. So yeah, so it brought all your attention to Khafre because Khafre is the one that's in the middle. It seems like it should have so much more going on. It's always in the center of the shot, but the Great Pyramid gets a lot of the attention. So I really think it's cool that you moved your focus over to Khafre and really, wow, look what happened. So Filippo, kind of discuss a little bit about this technology, synthetic aperture radar, and how it was used. I mean, there's so many different questions people have.
Yes.
But you, when we were together in London, explained it to me very well. But it's not really about how exactly SAR works. It's more of like what it can do for us. So just give us a little brief summary of how it works.
Was the period when we were working on the investigating the Great Pyramid, so Khnum Khufu. We had to find a method to explore inside the matter, and that was a problem because the Scam Pyramid project uses the so-called muons, which are subparticles that are impressively dedicated to be transparent by matter. But we hadn't the possibility, we didn't have the possibility to access to that kind of technology, and also because we thought that it was not so tailored for the purpose that we were seeking. So we preferred moving on synthetic aperture radar because it's a kind of technology that is very cheap and, in our personal opinion, can give you a lot of information, more information with respect to the one collectible by the Scam Pyramid project. So the muon investigation. Why? Because synthetic aperture radar is a wide spectrum method for analyzing the Earth. The product is constituted by radar images, which can be accessed very simple by everyone, so by people, or buying the images or submitting specific projects and in order to access for free and in an open access data. So it is very versatile. And so we prefer to move on synthetic aperture radar technology. But we had to explore better data because in just observing the results that gives you satellites, we can understand that the interaction of radio frequency, in this case coherent radio frequencies, at approximately 10 gigahertz of frequency is only superficial. So it was really a problem. But considering that the azimuth part of the image is made by synthesizing the Doppler information, and Doppler it means sound, we were very happy because sound is transmitted only inside the matter. And the more the matter is dense, better and higher is the sound velocity. So that was very good. We passed at least a lot of time before publishing our paper in 2000, our first paper in 2022, developing a software that was able to extrapolate the acoustic information from synthetic aperture radar images. In this context, we arrange a so-called protocol that we call it the Biondi protocol, but it's not only mine, it's of the group, that was able to extrapolate vibrations, and so this vibration could be compatible to explore beneath the pyramid. We started from Kunun Kufu, where in 2022 we published a peer-review paper on the remote sensing journal. And after collecting also the precious information given by Armando May, we preferred to move to explore in detail the Khafre pyramid. Why Khafre? Because Khafre is the center of Giza. Khafre is, in my personal opinion, the core of the Giza plateau. And then Armando, after, will explain better what it means considering the entirely the Giza plateau. So not just considering that or that pyramid, no, because in our personal opinion, Giza plateau has to be considered entirely. And that's very important.
A big system
Yes.
working together. And I think I want to bring up those slides again really quick, because I think that it's so hard to understand really what we're looking at. But when you guys came out on with the in the press conference talking about these pillars like
Yes,
structures underneath, these structures within the pyramid,
yeah,
all of these things that are were so incredibly eye-opening, and at the same time for so many people that have studied the underworld of Giza, just got everyone so excited. So let's look at the scans and try to help us understand what we're
yes,
looking at when
yes,
we talk about like our main scan.
yes. So the scans that we will see now, yes, these scans has been estimated using our technique. In engineering, we always speak about estimation because it is a statistical behavior of the information. The information theory is based on statistics. So when we perform a measurement, a scientific measurement in the engineering compound or physics, chemics, we refer always on a observation. So we have an observable, and after the measurement, we obtain the observation. And the information that we can grab after every measurement is always based on a statistical parameter. So with a certain probability, we are watching this. We can say that. So in this case, this is not noise because the behavior of noise is completely different, has a Fourier transform that is completely different. This is not noise. Because after the publication of our press conference, we had a lot of debunkers that, especially one, which I am not in the right to give her name, but we are giving absolutely, we are advancing legal claims, which in Italy is given by the prison to her. So because she said a lot of things that misinterprets and discreditates our work and especially me to me. So it is a personal attack, and in Italy is claimed by the jail. Okay, so in this context, we are observing things that are located inside the Pyramid of Khafre. The Pyramid of Khafre is in the first image on the top left. We have a differently projection of the pyramid. So this is a tomographic image where on the vertical axis we have the depth, and on the horizontal axis we have the azimuth. And so we can see that we are watching the structure of the pyramid, where inside of the structure of the pyramid we are watching some targets that are located inside. Why we are saying this? Because we have extrapolated, and so we have inverted the model, the acoustic model that we have estimated by the Biondi protocol. And according to considering the measurements estimated by different tomographic lines versus different satellite images versus different satellite companies, and obtaining approximately the same results. So that is the best choice to say that it is not noise, but it is real information and real structures that we are observing. We have we have helped people to watch, understand what we were watching, what we are measuring by our own interpretation. Our own interpretation has been extrapolated a 3D model by considering several tomograms in at least also 200 tomograms we have estimated in 2 years of work. So we spent 2 years of work in estimated more than 200 tomograms.
So this interpretation that you did that
Yes.
we're looking at is really, I think that's what is just so, I mean, it's just, it stops you in your tracks and you're like, when you think of you obviously think and you look at the structures on the Giza Plateau and you are just baffled by their size from what we can see. But to think about all of this going on under, Andrew, I know that I mean, you were messaging me as soon as this started, and I just kind of wanted to know what you took from seeing all of this and how did you take it? Because yes, Filippo and Armando, you were going to get massive amounts of resistance as well as acceptance. And it's just very interesting from my perspective to watch all of it go on. But Andrew, I want to talk to Andrew and Hugh about what they felt when they saw this stuff. I mean, this has just got to be so exciting for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously something that I've been working on for decades, and so when I learned of the data that the Khafre SAR project had achieved, I was incredibly interested for the simple reason that my own work with the rediscovery of the Giza cave underworld, which took place in 2008, has led me to the conclusion that the caves themselves seem to be going towards the second pyramid. And this is something that I'd worked out in 2009 when I first saw a radar image that was taken by the Terra SAR-X satellite. It was taken in July 2007 and shows two long shadow lines going from the area of the Tomb of the Birds all the way to the northwestern corner of the second pyramid. And I worked with the engineer Rodney Hale, who is a specialist in this field, to try and understand what these shadow lines represented, whether they could be surface features. And after quite a long study, we concluded that it had to be something underneath the ground. And that for this reason, that there was something going from the area of the Tomb of the Birds where we ourselves had explored, a cave system, a natural cave system for a distance of probably about 100 to 150 meters before, stopping and reporting it to the authorities, is that those caves continued on from this position in some capacity and go all the way to the second pyramid. So that started to interest me in that area in particular. There's me inside the caves right now. This was footage taken late last year by Hugh when we returned there for the first time for me since 2008. Now, the importance of the second pyramid is that it's the most obvious place that you are going to build any deep underground structures. And this was made clear as early as 1977 when the Stanford Research Institute, in association with the Ain Shams University of Cairo, detected two huge voids beneath the second pyramid, one at 50 meters deep and the other around 14 meters deep. And this was aside from other voids that they detected on the northwestern corner, exactly in the area where these shadow lines from the Terra SAR-X satellite showed them reaching almost the identical spot. So if you're going to build something huge beneath the plateau, it's going to be beneath the second pyramid. In all honesty, it's not going to be beneath the Great Pyramid. It's not going to be beneath the Sphinx, because they are closer to the underground water table. And that water table probably reaches up to about 50 to 60 meters beneath the second pyramid. But that still gives you an area of 50 to 60 meters where you create all sorts of complexes. But those complexes either are standalone, in other words, this is something that's been dug down from the surface of the plateau down into the limestone bedrock, or of course it could be extensions from the natural cave system itself. And of course, what a number of skeptics have observed in relation to the SAR information that the Italian team have brought forward is that what they could be showing is extensions to the cave system. And I think that certainly we have to consider that. But once you get over this, you then have to start looking at whether there is any evidence of activity, not just at Giza or in Egypt, but in other parts of the ancient world, that would suggest that people really were burrowing down to that type of depth. Now, obviously, the Italian team are talking down to depths of 648 kilometers, and beyond that, maybe a kilometer or more. I can't speak for that, obviously. But what I can say is that we know that there is extreme high culture in Anatolia with the Tash Tepeler people who created places like Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, Sayburj, which has been recently investigated. And next to all of these structures are hypogeums cut into the bedrock. I mean, there are all of the sites, not just at these key sites, but also at other Tash Tepeler sites in the Şanlıurfa region of southeastern Anatolia. And this is important because some of these are now being looked at in terms of being Neolithic in age. In other words, that they could date back to 8 to 9,000 BC and be contemporary with constructions like Göbekli Tepe. We also know, and if you could just go back to the underground cities of Derinkiyu, we know that people were burrowing down into the soft bedrock in the region of Cappadocia in central Anatolia, possibly as early as 11,000 BC. We know this because evidence has been found of stone tools associated with these excavations by an archaeologist who was one of the original people that discovered the Derinkiyu underground city, which is one of perhaps 25 or 30 of these underground cities in Cappadocia, that they found Paleolithic tools in the area where they believed that they were disposing of the material that was being obviously coming out of these underground structures. And although the archaeologists don't consider, let's say, Derinkiyu as any older than the Hittite period, so probably about 1500 BC, there is every reason to suggest that Neolithic peoples were carving deep underground structures as early as 9 to 10,000 BC, possibly even earlier than this. And Çatalhöyük in southern central Turkey was the first huge, great urban centre, the first city. It was constructed probably as early as 7,500, 8,000 BC. And there is evidence that they too were mining, creating some of the earliest mines anywhere in the world, looking for something called cinnabar. Cinnabar is the ore of mercury, and cinnabar was used to paint all of the different, frescoes on the walls. Now, cinnabar, for the most part, is found underground. A small amount of it can be found on the surface, but the good stuff, if you like, has to be mined. And those mines are known in Anatolia, and they go back to the prehistoric era. And there is a good chance that the people of Çatalhöyük, as early as 7 to 8,000 BC, were mining deep down into the bedrock to obtain this cinnabar mineral ore. So, you have contemporary cultures, but not only that, but we know that there are links between Tash Tepelah and the area of Cappadocia through incredible sites like Ashikli Hoyak, which dates back to 9000 BC, which is right next to some of these underground cities. These cities which go down at least to 85 meters, some of them, as much as 20 levels. We still don't know how they achieved it, but they had an immense amount of sophistication in the way that they would create ventilation shafts, allowing these excavations to take place. So if you've got all of this happening in Anatolia, and we can find links between Tash Tepelah and Egypt, then surely something similar could have been going on at the Giza Plateau. And then obviously you bring the links between Tash Tepelah and Egypt, which can be found very easily through various cultural comparisons. For instance, the Helwan Point. You've got a picture of that there if you can find it. But this is a very distinctive type of projectile point. This has been found at a Tash Tepelah site in the heart of the city of Şanlıurfa, ancient Urfa or Edessa, right next to something called Urfa Man, which you can see here, which dates to 9000 BC and arguably is the oldest life-size human statue in the world, although a similar one was found recently at Karahan. Right next to this was found Helwan Point, or at least one, possibly two. And Helwan points are not only found throughout the Levant, but they're also found within sight of the pyramids at Giza, at the settlements of Helwan. Incredibly sophisticated settlements that go back to at least 19,000 BC. And in addition to this, proto-agriculture was taking place at Helwan at exactly the same time that it was taking place at Karahan Tepe, as early as 11,000 BC. And we know this not only from the examination of the soils and the grains that are found within the soil, but also in the sickle blades. Sickle blades are being found, particularly at Helwan, that have a particular type of silica that shows that they were used for reaping or harvesting wild grains. So that brings us into Egypt. Next, after everybody else has talked, we can talk about how we can tell that the ancient myths tell us that something was going on in the area of Giza underground.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, definitely you've making those connections through that entire region all the way up to Turkey and the Fertile Crescent, and there's just so much to be discovered in that area. For everybody that's Hugh, I want to go to you in just a second. I just want a lot of people are joining in, and thank you for being here. We're going to go so much deeper at the Gaia Sphere Ancient Civilizations Conference in August. And if you're thinking about coming to be with all of these awesome people, I just want to get back into this. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what we were doing, that people that are coming in late. So Hugh, I know that your excitement for this discovery, after talking to you in London, you seemed really amped about this. So what were your thoughts of when you first saw this press conference and kind of the couple months that have followed, and everything that your videos that you released through Megalithomania, have all of this. It was such a great presentation that you did, and just talk about the last few months in perspective of these discoveries under Khafre.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me here. Hi, everybody. Armando, Filippo, Andrew, Jason, brilliant. Just delighted. And all the people in the chat, hundreds of people, so good to see you there. Greetings from the Stonehenge landscape. That's where I am right now, my home. And well, I was actually in Malta when this is all kicking off, and it all came out, I think, publicly the day after the kind of conference on the 16th. And it was that day I was actually in the Hypogeum, the House Cephalieni Hypogeum, and a few other little underground areas you get there as well. So that really intrigued me that I was visiting that the same day as this was all being announced, because they've even found a second one there in Malta, which hasn't even been publicly announced yet. So Andrew's here talking about what's happening in Turkey. we can explain a bit more about that in a moment. But it's all happening. They've been digging underground with beautiful detail, very high level of technology, thousands of years ago in Malta. But even if we come back to the Khafre's pyramid, there's something myself and Andrew and my friend Jim Vieira and JJ Ainsworth, we've been visiting there many times. And one thing I keep going back to is the Khafre pyramid, specifically around the back of it, because around the back of it, you've got this huge bedrock area which has been cut out straight from the bedrock. Even one corner of the pyramid is carved, literally carved out of bedrock, and then they built up the kind of levels of blocks afterwards. Then you've got all these tunnel caves going down at the back of this on this little cliff face at the back, going deep under the ground, and you can see that there's underground elements, and you can just see it for yourself. We've been going there for years. And also people know about the kind of structure beneath Belzoni's chamber in the center of Khafre's pyramid. That's been known about for a long time, plus some other chambers on the two corners as well. Me and Andrew were discussing this in our last lengthy video interview we did on the Megalithomania channel. And so there's already been knowledge of this, plus we're going to talk about the Osiris shaft as well. And the fact that it's so high up on the kind of Giza plateau, I think what Armando Filippo and their team have come up with is remarkable, because it's, they could well, because it's so high up compared to, like the Sphinx and the Bali Temple. People say, oh no, it can't work. There must be groundwater there, but it's not. It's so high up. There's no way there's going to be any water there. And so it all just kind of makes sense. When I saw that, it just kind of, I couldn't quite believe what I was looking at when I first saw the imagery that came out. But then I had a good look at the scans. Me and Andrew went through it a few times, and I just thought, God, there's something really solid going on here. And I think all these naysayers just don't really, get it. And I think having Filippo and Armando and their team analyzing it effectively, using their very advanced system that they've got to do it with, I think that needs to be really encouraged and worked with a bit more, rather than put it to one side and dismiss it just because they came up with it first. People kind of are jealous, that's kind of the way it happens. But I would love to see this applied to the Taztapala region, to even to Malta, to anywhere where there's known underground areas, because I'm sure a lot more is going to be found if this technology can be developed and worked into these different places. Because what Andrew was talking about, even at Saybirch, for example, is one of the Taztapala sites. Not only are they cutting into the bedrock quite shallow, creating their enclosures, but just next to it, there's an absolute hypogeum, 2 or 3 level underground chamber carved out of bedrock. Now, no one knows if that's Taztapal era, like 12,000 years ago, or if it's done by the Romans. We know they were in the area, but we think it's super ancient. And we also discovered this remarkable, very deep sloping tunnel near another site in the region, which we can't talk about too much because it hasn't been officially announced yet, things like that. And that goes like 100 feet down, sloping. Myself and Andrew have been in there a couple of times. We've investigated it, full hazmat suits, there's spider webs like something out of Indiana Jones. But, we've been getting into these sites, we've been having a look, and it's kind of been blowing our minds. The next step on the Giza plateau has to be someone has to try and get down there. They need to go through the end of the tomb of the birds. They need to get deep. They need to get into this area somehow. And I got to give a shout out to Trevor Grassi, because he's quite good at doing things like that. So I encourage him to get in there and take a look somehow. He's been doing good stuff. So so I
Cool.
think it's remarkable what's being found there, and I'm keen to, even if we can start doing some GPR on the top, like them little kind of trolleys they roll about,
Yeah.
to sort of double check, to give more verification to Filippo's and Armando's scans. I think that would be a start, and I think the Egyptian authorities need to take that on board.
Sure.
But for now, I think there's something profound going on here, and it needs some more research.
I totally agree. Let's bring the aerial or the overhead of the Giza Plateau, because just for a lot of you out there that don't study this all the time, even Hugh saying on the backside, what does that mean, right? So typically, we have the Sphinx, down here, which is facing east. You that when you typically say the backside, are you saying the entrance in the north is on the north side? What are you saying is the back
Yeah.
side, and kind of give us a view of what we're looking at here for where the Tomb of the Birds is versus the front and back side of Khafre Pyramid.
Well, yeah, you can see Khafre's pyramid there. You can see the causeway coming down, going to the sort of south west there. But behind it, you see that kind of black line. That is like the cliff face almost that they've had to carve out because it's on a slope there. Part of the back end of the pyramid is part of that bedrock. And on that black line where there's all these caves that go in as well. Then you've got the causeway coming down to the Sphinx area. And even halfway down that, we have a whole underground element there, which we're going to talk about, the Osiris shaft. And so yeah, so that's the whole. I think that's the whole area. I think of the you've marked the uh, Tomb of the Birds. Is that correct? And then you've got the causeway there as well. And we know there's more underground stuff. Obviously, I personally think before the pyramids were built, and me and Andrew have been discussing this for insanely for the last few weeks about it, that there was like a whole stone mound kind of structures naturally formed, like knolls and things like that. You've got Jebel Ghibli. Andrew's done a ton of research on that. But you've also got they were working into the bedrock before any pyramids were there, possibly before even the Sphinx was there. And so I think that, you go to places like Sardinia, the whole country is covered in these hypogeums, these underground elements. And I think that was going on the Giza Plateau clearly. And they were combining it with the natural cave systems of the Tomb of the Birds, NC2. Collins Caves is what Zahi Hawass calls it, by the way. So big up to Andrew there. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I think, there's a lot more going on. You don't really notice it unless it's pointed out to you. That's the thing. Or you spend a ridiculous amount of time looking around the Giza Plateau. So it's so deep, there's so much research
Yeah.
to be done. And I think the authorities really need to get on board with this right now.
And last season of the docuseries, Ancient Civilizations docuseries, we went into the necropolis, the underground system, all the way from Saqqara to Giza. This is a humongous stretch of landscape that is we've only barely scratched the surface. So I'm so excited to see what this new technology is going to bring. But I think as a neutral observer of all this which is what I definitely strive to be, is just let me look at all this, let me hear all of this. When I saw the scans of the Osiris shaft, and I know what the Osiris shaft looks like, that to me was okay. If I've questioned how deep SAR scanning tech can go, this is such a great example of how deep it can go versus, I know Andrew, I know Hugh, I'm sure Armando, you've climbed down that rickety ladder to get down in there. Like, this is deep down. I don't know the distance down, but it's down there. And the fact that the scanning technology was able to pick up, where that sarcophagus is, the one that we were just looking at, I believe, is the first one on this diagram. But the way that the scanning technology picked up and said, is there more under there? What else is below what we know? Armando, kind of talk about that a little bit, and about like what this scan tells you and why it excites you as far as being able to help people understand what you guys are doing.
Well, before to scan the Giza Plateau, the entire Giza Plateau, we decide to scan some sites that are well known, the structures are well known, just to have a confrontation with the data that we obtain from the detection of the satellite. That is why Filippo and Malanga, they came from the study, the detection of the Great Pyramid. And inside the Great Pyramid, they detect the actual structures that is well known. For example, the jet, for example, the King Chamber, the Queen Chambers, the Great Gallery, and so on. But they detect the pyramid that is over the surface of the Earth. So we have to prove the technology beneath the pyramid, so under the surface, to be sure that the technology worked. So we decide to apply the SAR on the Osiris shaft that is a well-known site. The inside structures are well-known because explored by archaeologists. And we obtain a tomography that in these pictures you can notice that is exactly developed exactly as the tomb of Osiris, the shaft of Osiris is known. But with the difference that the Osiris shaft goes deeper in the earth until 200 meters, where there is another chamber with something inside. So of course, we have to explore the sites to know more about the secret chamber that is in the deeper under the surface to know what is contained inside. So what is important for us was to detect well-known structures before to move to explore the surface of the Giza Plateau. I would like to add another important details explaining why we moved in the scan of the Khafre pyramid. Because when the connection with the pyramid and the number 137 arose, we decided to better understand the connection with this number and the pyramid of Khafre. You have to know that in archetype, the number 137 means entrance in the divine house of life. Now, studying a book of a British Egyptologist that his name is George Hart, that wrote a book called The God Thought. In this book, I noted that the temple of Thoth in the ancient Egypt was known with the term Per Ankh, that means house of temple of life. So the temple of life is the house of Thoth. The 137 means entrance to divine house of life. That is why we believe that there is a very close connection with the god Thoth and the Giza Plateau.
I mean, Thoth is Thoth. How there's so many different pronunciations of it, of the wise one. But no matter how you say it, Thoth is very prevalent on the Giza Plateau in all of the research, and there's no denying Thoth. And let's bring up the overhead really quick again so that we can try to show everyone where the Osiris shaft is. And then, obviously, Filippo, you're able to see these scans in a way that we can't. But what did the Osiris shaft? What does it prompt you to believe that how deep it may go based on the scans?
Allora, in my personal opinion, Armando is right. The Osiris shaft has I don't remember the depth exactly, but is well known that has a certain depth. But in
200,
how much,
200,
Armando?
200, 200
200.
meters.
Yes, in that case, the sarcophagus that can be located at the bottom of our scan can be 200 meters in depth. Why? Because once we estimate the vibrations that are located on the SAR image, according to the quality, to the characteristics, to the Doppler sub-aperture strategy that we are applying, we can measure also a delay, not the depth, a delay. Because the delay is matched to directly to the density of the material. So matching the delay by the density, because acoustic waves are traveling only inside the matter, and the velocity that exposed to the particular matter is depending on the density of the material. But this is a conversion that it is easy to do. So the conversion is between delay to space, so to the depth, okay, according to the physics.
Okay, so just really quick for those who don't
Yes,
understand the metric system, you said 200 meters, right, Armando?
yes.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
656 feet. So that's down there. Unbelievable. Then that's just so many. We have gone down there. We've seen it. That is definitely proof that under the Giza Plateau there are things that go very deep. So obviously we've heard, whether you're talking about Toth or whether you're talking about Edgar Casey, you're talking about this topic of something under the Giza Plateau that contains secrets. And it's hard to not think about the Hall of Records or the Hall of Amenti when you're talking about this underworld of Giza. So, anybody, Andrew, I know that you have definitely connected with Casey's Hall of Records topic, and I know Armando, you have definitely connected with Toth's Hall of Amenti um, description or talking about the halls of Amenti. So, Andrew, what do you think? Is this a connection?
Yeah, I mean, Edgar Casey was America's, greatest psychic, essentially. He died in 1945, but as early as 1925, in his so-called life readings, where he would sort of fall into a trance and give these readings to people, in connections with medical conditions and things like that. He started talking about the Sphinx and Giza, and he said that there was something underneath the Sphinx. He said there was an entrance nearby, and it was something he referred to as the Hall of Records. He referred to it as the repository of the knowledge and wisdom, possibly even physical artifacts belonging to Atlantis. But it was there at Giza and it was there to be found. And since that time, there have been a large number of low key investigations by Egyptologists looking for the Hall of Records. So, what is the Hall of Records? I mean, how can we relate that to ancient Egyptian mythology and origin stories? Well, for that, we have to go to a text known as the Westcar Papyrus. The Westcar Papyrus talks about the pharaoh Khufu looking for the number, that's the exact word, of the secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth. We call him Thoth here in Essex, in England. And that, he made a great deal out of looking for these because he wanted this information so that he could build his horizon. And the horizon means the pyramid, because this was known as the horizon of Khufu. So what is this secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth? Well, the great philologist working in the field of Egyptology, Alan Gardner, wrote a paper on this saying that this sanctuary must have been a primeval sanctuary associated with the god Thoth. And to understand that better, we have to go to southern Egypt to the temple of Horus at Edfu, where on the wall you have what are known as building texts or foundation texts. And every temple had variations of these in the past, favouring their own particular, cult centre. But those at Edfu are particularly important because they are complete to this day, and you can still see them. And what these do are tell us exactly not only how the universe came into existence, how the world came into existence, but who the first primeval beings were. They're referred to as the primeval ones. The other name that's given to them is the eldest ones, quite literally the elders. And it's said that they create a sacred domain on an island, and in the middle of this island is another small lake, and in the middle of this emerged something called the Bennett, the embryo, the radiance of the island. It's also referred to as the throne or the lotus, and this shone forth and made the waters around the island go away until eventually they went as far as to create Egypt, and eventually they went away as far as to create the world. And it said that these people, the first people that created shrines and enclosures in the country, and the person who wrote the book on this was Raymond in 1969, called the mythical origin of the Egyptian temple. And if you haven't already got this, try and get it, although it's very, very expensive. But what happens is that after this time, there's a cataclysm involving an enemy snake that comes into the sky called the Great Leaping One. And with it comes a blackout and a massive, terrible flood that kill these primeval inhabitants or mythical beings. And then afterwards, new beings turn up. They're called the Falcons and the Shebtu, and they rebuild at the same position and, revitalize this sacred domain. And there is talk at this point of a deep underground structure where they keep their relics and their power objects. Okay, and they eventually rebuild the first enclosure. The original inhabitants are now referred to as the ghosts. And after this time comes the builder gods. And these builder gods now have familiar names, the most prominent of which is Thoth and his wife Seshat. And they measure out the enclosure to create the first Egyptian temple. And it is the numbers or the measurements, the ratios, the harmony, proportions of this temple that will go on to influence the design of every other temple in Egypt from that point onwards. This is the number of the secret chambers of Thoth, of the sanctuary of Thoth, which Khufu was clearly after. He doesn't find them, by the way, according to the story. But he's told where to go to look. But anyway, all of this is happening in the area of Giza. And this is according to Eva Raymond. This is not just some idea that I've come up with. So somewhere in the area of Giza is not only the first enclosure, the first shrines, the first temple in Egypt, but also a deep underground structure that's referred to as the underworld of the soul, that's reached through something called the place of the well. Now, I imagine that this could be in the area of the second pyramid, which we know is associated with the god Hermes. This is in Greek myth, but Hermes in this context is merely the name that's given in Greek times to the god Thoth. And the ancient Sabian peoples of southeastern Anatolia, coming from the area of Haran, which is very close to Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, they would come on pilgrimages a couple of thousand years ago down to medieval times to venerate the second pyramid as the place of the tomb of Thoth. So in other words, they're saying this is the location of some kind of underground structure associated with Thoth himself. So to me, I think what the Stanford Research Institute detected in 1977, and perhaps the data which the Italian team are looking at now, could relate to this very ancient sanctuary of Thoth beneath the second pyramid.
We are definitely going to be deep diving this in the series, Ancient Civilizations, and in the conference at the Gaia Sphere in August. So just real quick, if whoever's joining late, we're just scratching the surface here. Everyone on this panel is going to be going deeper in the conference with their current research, and it's just so much fun to gather everyone. Yes, Zoom is fun, but doing it live in person with all these great people, it's so much fun. It's a full-on deep dive weekend. So look, we could talk all day about all of everything that's been discovered, but let's just talk a little bit about, can you give any clue as to what you might be bringing to the conference? Just a little bit that you're going to be bringing in August that may connect to this, or where are you going what are you thinking? Like, I can't wait to hear what you bring.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm going to be presenting on. It's based on my newish book, Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, the world's first megaliths. But I've been looking into the solstices because we discovered, myself and JJ, this winter solstice alignment at Karahan Tepe, which kind of blew our minds. And so I've been looking into that. And interestingly, some of it is related to underground stuff because I've been going into looking at much earlier and contemporary use of the solstice, even going back tens of thousands of years before anything to do with agriculture and what people say they were marking the solstices for, which is for like food growing and things like that. But actually, there's a much earlier ceremonial initiation type use, even with the very early hunter-gatherers, the Paleolithic people, which I've got proof of. Like, even some of the famous Paleolithic caves, they were chosen because the entrance is aligned to the solstices and they illuminate the paintings at those specific points of the year. So that really intrigues me. But also, yeah, I'm going to be exploring a bit about the underground elements in the Taztepe region that we've discussed briefly because I'm so fascinated by what's happening here on the Giza plateau, and I'm going to try and coerce Filippo and Armando to interpret some data from specific areas there if possible, because that would be mind-blowing if we
Cool.
can actually find and correlate anything, because I think we're going to find things that as Andrew's saying will fit or will connect even more these two great ancient cultures. And also I'm going to be I've got a few new things I'm going to be sharing on the geometry and the
Of course.
metrology of Taztepla and all that region as well. So yeah, it's going to be quite compelling compared, especially with all the other great speakers that are going to be there as well.
Awesome. Yeah, Andrew, you got any, what are you bringing? Are you bringing,
Yeah,
I know you can't tell us, but
well, I
you
mean,
you definitely teased
I
me up a
mean,
little bit.
basically, yeah, I mean, quite clearly, we'll be going through all of what we've been talking about today, from the comparisons with other cultures and coming to the conclusion that, why couldn't it be possible that there are deep underground structures at Giza? Because they're going on in other parts of the ancient world. We've got high culture going back 20 to 30,000 years in places like Mongolia, places like Lake Baikal, in Russia, places like Sungar and Kostenki. Um, you know, high culture, and clearly these people were mining. Some of them were mining as certainly as in the late Paleolithic age. So there's no reason why there cannot be underground structures at Giza that were built by humans. And who were those humans? Obviously, we'll be looking at that. We call them the elder culture, obviously based on the Edfu building texts. Um, and quite clearly, there was a cataclysm. We link that with the Younger Dryas event that took place in 10,800 BC, possibly triggered by a comet fragmentation. And of course, the arrival thereafter of new peoples who I believe were Tashtapala. I think that they came to Giza revering it as a place of the ancestors, and they found monuments that were already thousands of years old and built in the vicinity, with their main base being the area of Helwan, which is within sight of Giza. So we'll be looking into that, and of course the mythology, these origin stories like the Edfu building text, and then looking specifically at the plateau, the design of the pyramid field. Does that tell us what is beneath there? Does that show us where to look for the absolute entrance into this underworld that awaits discovery?
Love it. Love it. Can't wait. And Filippo and Armando, you
Yes.
guys are going to be presenting your evidence together. So are you just a little tease, like, of is there anything you can get us to get
We
excited
can
about what you're going to bring?
we can bring with us an opportunity to join a research that we are doing it together for free. We are doing it, so we are not asking money. And we are bringing with us, as I told you, an opportunity to so humans can know, we can help humans to know who are we. because at the how world is growing up in this timeline, in this evolution, in my personal opinion, is wrong. Because people are growing up, the humanity is growing up not good, because it is our life is based only on materialism, and we have lost our the opportunity to know where we are going, but where we started and who we are, because we don't know who we are. Thank you.
Armando, you have anything to add to
And
that?
my presentation is based on the review of the path that we follow from the beginning to the Khafre project, focusing the opportunity to join the scientific events that are well known with what is inscribed in the ancient myth. So I start
Ciao
from
Edoardo.
an analysis of the paleomagnetism and the last period of the Pleistocene age. So in the last 100,000 years. So I try to explain why happened some episodes that are inscribed in the ancient text until the Zeptepi and the age of the gods. And then I move towards the Great Flood, explaining the new beginning of the modern era.
Love it. Love it. I can't wait for everyone to experience all of you together on the same weekend. It's so much fun to be here and to be a part of that and to be diving into all of this with all of you. You guys have all persevered through so many ups and downs, and to have these kinds of times where we can all unite and say what I'm saying and what you're saying, and everything is pointing to what they were saying. It's so much fun to do this. I want to. We don't have that much time left, but there are several people that ask questions, and I think this is one of the questions that we have to keep these answers short because I want to try to get as many as possible in here. But you know, when we look at the Giza Plateau, the biggest question I think is like, why was that particular plot of land chosen by our ancients? What do you feel? What do you think? What else might have been going on there? Why was it chosen?
Yeah, I can tell you. Okay, the ancient name of Giza was Rostau or Restau, which means the mouth of the passages, quite literally the entrance into the caves. Those caves were seen as an entry into the underworld, known in ancient Egyptian as the Duat, and through which you reached the Amente, quite literally the place of the afterlife, or certainly almost like the bardo that you had to pass through to reach the afterlife. And it's very possible that the pyramid field was created where it was because of the cave system that was there and the underground features which we are now detecting. In other words, the place was special long, long before the time of the pyramids. So, that is the answer, I think, that it was seen as an entrance into the underworld with the Sphinx guarding that entrance. Whether the Sphinx was seen as a lion, which obviously some of my colleagues would say, but I think that there's growing evidence to suggest that it could have started its life as a simulacrum. In other words, a natural feature in the landscape that had the likeness to an animal, possibly a wolf or a dog. My colleague Robert Temple suggested this in a book a while about, and I think he could well be right. These are the guardians into the underworld. That's what the Sphinx represented, and that's why I think the pyramid field came about in the first place.
You and anybody else have anything to add to that before I move on to the next?
Yes, I would like to add just a few more details because I studied some documents that were published in last century One of them wrote by a German geologist, his name is Blankenhorn, who discovered in 1922 the river connecting the Mediterranean Sea with the inside deserts of Libya and Egypt. So that this river, I believe, is very, very important because also Giza could be known as the land between two rivers, as the land of Sumerians, for example. Another interesting detail was the study made by two geologists of the University of Chicago that in 1929, studying the region of Fayum in south of Giza, they discovered some artificial conduit and tunnels that goes towards Giza towards the north. All these the two studies I mentioned have a common details that the salt water of the Mediterranean Sea and the salt water from the Fayum that goes toward Giza. I know that in the past, also in the study of Andrew Collins that explored the tunnels in the Tomb of Birds, I noted the presence of clues of sodium that I believe could be studied better because I believe that there is a connection between the Tomb of Birds and salt water, and that could be functional to the entire machine of Giza. So I believe that we must improve this kind of study from a chemistry point of view, just to know better about this kind of hypothesis.
Yeah, we're definitely that's a very fascinating topic, as you saw from my excitement in London about that. We're definitely going to go deeper into that in the docuseries. But I think it all points to whether it's the salt water, the tunnels going towards Giza, the potential of deep underground structures underneath, the anomalies of the pyramids, the whole thing. Why would they build it there? We're starting to speculate. But was it spiritual technology? Was it energetic production? Was it both? The open-ended question that no one can 100% answer, but it's hard to not look at both sides and say there's a very good possibility that both were happening on the Giza Plateau. So, Hugh, what do you think of the speculation of massive energetic production or spiritual technology? Both. What was going on there?
I'm a big fan of Christopher Dunn and his Giza power plant. Man, big fan. I love it. I think he's totally onto it. But it's also, yeah, you mentioned the chemical kind of production there. There's that as well. The new Christopher Dunn book, highly recommended. It's also Jeffrey Drum he's part of the Land of Chem. He's been developing that from, Chris Dunn. He was mentioning chemicals. And there's a huge amount of data that he's come up with. He's got academic backing as well now, so, suggesting they were extracting metals like iron. This was a black manganese oxide and different things from the Giza plateau. There are iron streams going through the whole area. So there's all that to consider as well. It may have been kind of part of their kind of technology. And I think with a combination of Christopher Dunn's ideas that this was some kind of energy generator producing ions and good for like agriculture and like energy and things like this. With what's going on underneath Khafre's pyramid, maybe that's where the real answers are going to be found. I think there could be something in that, especially because the levels, the water may have been part of that. The water levels moving up and down, so there could be something in that. I mean, I mean, there's a lot to say about Giza Plateau and its purpose and why it was chosen. But I think with the Khafre research team here and people like Andrew and I've been saying over the years, I think we're starting to get some answers. So yes, look, it's looking good for the future.
Andrew?
Yeah, good for the future. Yeah. I mean, look, obviously, I encourage the Khafre SAR team, to continue their work. Because it's fascinating. Obviously, I look forward to it being peer reviewed, and published. Hopefully, in a journal like Remote Sensing, which was the same journal that published their work in 2022 on the Great Pyramid. So I look forward to that, and I encourage them, to look. Obviously, not just at Giza, but as Hugh said, if we can get them to look at places like Göbekli Tepe or Karahan Tepe, or even somewhere like Cappadocia with these underground cities, can your SAR equipment and SAR interpretation see the underground cities of, let's say, Derinkiyu? And could that allow us to find even further examples of them? That's a very exciting prospect for the future.
Yeah, I think the eye-opening understanding of literally eye-opening with all of the technology or satellite technology in the lower orbit is allowing us to see things, as from a higher perspective, basically. And I'm very excited for what the synthetic aperture radar technology is going to bring, and what you guys have brought to us, or sharpened, should we say. You have been sharpening and sharpening and sharpening your skills to help us see things differently. And I'm excited. So what are you guys feel? I know you're
Yes.
connected with the Toth and the Holes of Amenti, but do you feel that this was both spiritual technology and energetic technology going on at
I,
the Giza Plateau?
it, it is possible, in my personal opinion, so this is my answer, can be possible to say this. I'm sure of this. In this life, there are few certains. It is not even possible to say that the death is certain, because, in my personal opinion, does not exist. We are eternal entities that decides to make an experience in the matter in our bodies. So, also according to my studies, I refer that in this life there are very few certains, but I am absolutely certain that one of them is that the pyramids are not tombs.
Armando?
Well, in my personal opinion, the answer is very short, because you have to know that the Khafre Pyramid Project is an open world, open to all, everyone want to move in the discover of the truth on the ancient past of humankind. So I believe that everybody of us, every one of us, Andrew, you, and all researchers that are in the field, we have to move all together on the Giza Plateau to ask for the authorities and to explore the underground of Giza, just to reveal to humanity what lies beneath the pyramid.
You said it exactly. We must harmonize together. We must unite together, moving
Yes,
forward for the benefit of all. And
yeah,
it's not, I'm right, you're right, I'm not. It's a harmonized view of this, and how these this plateau can give us so many answers, I believe, on how we can do it as we can move forward as a species together, and be able to handle the types of power and the types of spiritual technology or the types of energetic technology that were used by the wise ones before. And I love that you said that. It's just, as much as we all do our own thing and we go down our own paths, they all must unite together
yeah.
in a way of
Yes.
compassionate approach to understanding the mysteries of the Giza Plateau. Wow, it's I can't believe it's already, we got to wrap this up soon, but it's just been so much fun to have you guys all together and to
Thank you.
share this with the world. And I'm so excited for not only what's going to happen with this technology, and if we can take it into Turkey, and all of Hugh and Andrew's research can be looked at in a different way, and united with science and with satellite technology. It's just such an exciting time for you guys, for all of us, really. And it's been a great time together, and I so appreciate everyone coming together. As I look through all the questions, all you guys out there, thank you for sending questions. I feel like I've hit several of your questions, and obviously we could talk all day. But I guess one more final word from each of you, if you could just keep it really short, because the seminar or the webinar will shut off on us if we don't. But there's the conference. Would love to have everyone there. It's just, again, so much fun to have everyone together in unity, just deep diving on this stuff. So Andrew, lead it off with just one final.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I look forward to this conference in August, and obviously being with my colleagues there, and discussing all of this. I think that it's going to be a monumental event. Basically, it's certainly the next place that I will be in the USA, lecturing, and I am preparing something, specifically for that, a brand new lecture. So yeah, that's it really. But I mean, those are not in America. You and I do a conference called Origins in the UK. Look at megalithomania.co.uk for the information on that, on my own website, andrewcollins.com. And yeah, I mean, I am rewriting one of my older books called Beneath the Pyramids, which, laid out the entire story of how Giza's cave underworld was rediscovered in 2008. Oh, there you go. You got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm redoing that at the moment. Hugh's doing the cover of it, and there will be a whole new section all about all of the new discoveries and what's going on at the moment and what we've found. So watch out for that in a couple of months' time as well.
Cool. You?
Yeah, I'm super excited by all this. I'm like a little sort of boy in a toy shop when you get the Giza plateau and all the research coming out from underneath it. I think it's just incredible. Yeah, like Andrew says, I'm very much looking forward to catching up with everybody at Gaia Sphere in August. I got a lot of them, my good friends I haven't seen for ages, so I'm very pleased about that. And to meet these guys properly, in person. And obviously Amanda and Filippo are going to be they're coming to England for our conference on November the 1st. We're delighted about that. It's going to be hopefully the first appearance doing it here, even though Filippo's linked with stuff in Scotland as well. But yes, so there's a lot going on. I just like the fact that it's growing. More is getting unlocked. They're kind of presenting more data, which kind of proves their theory. The debunkers are going crazy, which I love. I think it's hilarious, and I think we have to kind of when you get pushback. I mean, Andrew's had this before. Graham Hancock's had this. When you get heavy pushback from tons of debunkers, it means you're onto something, and I think that's what's happening here. I think there's something profound is taking place. So let's just I'm sure you've got more to reveal, you two. I'm very interested in seeing what that'll be, and like I say, me and Andrew would love to discuss if we can apply this to some other places as well, because I think it's really important research, and it takes away the need to go through all these official channels when you can kind of have a look for yourself. And I think that's what's so good about this technology. So I look forward to meeting everyone at Gaia in August, and yeah, it's going to be a great time, great event.
Yeah, I love what you said. Pushback, guys. As you all know, I love the phrase "from the east, no mud, no lotus," but it's true. That flower or that lotus has to push through some really hard. The travel is hard, but it is so worth it. And I and all of those out there, thank you guys so much for just sticking with it and going for it, regardless of the skeptics. And as you said, yeah, you're on to something. So we're about to end, but Armando and Filippo, do you have anything else that you want to add to this?
I would like to, first of all, apologize for my English that I know
No, it's
I
great.
hope that people understand what I said. And of course, I can't wait to meet you all at the Gaia Sphere event. I know that we will spend a very great time all together. So I hope to see you as soon as possible. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for inviting me. Thank you.
Yes, also for me, I'm sorry also I apologize for my crazy pronouns of English, for my English, but in this context, I thank you for inviting us at your conference. I'm sure, will be something very nice that for me is the first time to attend this conference. And so I will be very happy. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolute honor to host you here and to host you in the Gaia Sphere for sure. We're so looking forward to all of you guys being there. Throw the shot one more time of the Gaia Sphere event, because I mean, to get all of these amazing voices into one weekend is such, I mean, that's why I love working here at Gaia, working with Gaia, because to be able to be with all of these awesome luminaries in the field of ancient research is so much fun. So I hope to see everybody there. And I'm so thankful for you taking your time today to listen to this and scratch the surface with us. But it was an absolute honor, you guys, to be here with you. And I am so thankful for everything you give to this ancient research and trying to figure out and put the pieces of the ancient puzzle together. So I hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and I can't wait to see everybody in August, and I can't wait to see the new season of Ancient Civilizations, the docuseries come together, and it's so much fun to make. And thank you everybody for joining. Thank you guys for being the panelists, and have a beautiful rest of your week, guys. Thank you very much.
We're looking at the possibility of huge megastructures being uncovered beneath the second pyramid